The War of 1812, America's Second War for Independence. Welcome, history enthusiasts. Today, we dive into an often overlooked chapter in history, the War of 1812. This remarkable conflict, spanning from 1812 to 1815, is sometimes referred to as America's Second War for Independence. However, it was far more than just a sequel to the American Revolution. Why did this war happen? Who were the key players, and how did it shape the North American continent? Let's explore this fascinating story together, breaking down its causes, major events, and lasting impact. The seeds of the War of 1812 were planted long before the first shots were fired. In the years after gaining independence, the United States faced ongoing tensions with Great Britain. The two nations found themselves in opposition on multiple fronts, creating a buildup of frustration and animosity. One critical factor was Britain's interference with American maritime trade. At the time, Britain was involved in a prolonged war with Napoleonic France in Europe. To weaken the French economy, the British Royal Navy imposed strict blockades, which disrupted neutral trade routes, including those of the United States. American ships were frequently seized or searched, sparking outrage. Another major grievance was the practice of impressment. This highly controversial policy involved the British Navy forcibly recruiting sailors, including Americans. U.S. citizens were frequently kidnapped from merchant ships and coerced into military service aboard British warships. For a nation still establishing its sovereignty, this blatant disregard for American rights was a bitter pill to swallow. The tension wasn't limited to the sea. On land, Britain actively supported Native American tribes resisting U.S. expansion into the western frontier. To many Americans, this British support was viewed as foreign meddling and an attack on their national destiny. Combined with growing pressure from war hawks in Congress, political leaders eager for conflict to assert American strength, the United States declared war on Great Britain in June 1812. What followed was a 3-year conflict that would test the young nation's resilience. War began with high hopes, but quickly revealed the challenges facing the United States. For one, America was unprepared. Its military was small, underfunded, and inexperienced. Many of the battles fought in 1812 and 1813 resulted in embarrassment for U.S. forces. A key focus for American leaders was Canada, then a British territory. They believed that invading and capturing Canada, with its critical resources and strategic importance, would deal a blow to Britain's efforts in the war. However, the poorly managed U.S. invasions of Canada ended in failure. Battles such as the one at Queenston Heights not only resulted in defeat, but also showcased the strength of British and Canadian forces. Meanwhile, on the high seas, Britain's naval superiority quickly became clear. The Royal Navy imposed a blockade, stifling American trade and damaging its economy. American ships were unable to keep up with Britain's overwhelming fleet, leaving much of the coast vulnerable to attacks. Despite these setbacks, not all was lost. Early in the war, the U.S. achieved symbolic victories, particularly with its new naval vessels, such as the USS Constitution. The Constitution defeated British warships in dramatic fashion, earning the nickname Old Ironsides and boosting American morale. One of the most notable periods of the War of 1812 began in 1814. By this time, major developments in Europe were spilling over into the North American conflict. The year saw both triumph and tragedy. The most infamous event occurred in August 1814, when British troops marched into Washington, D.C. In retaliation for earlier American attacks in Canada, the British burned key government buildings, including the White House and the Capitol. President James Madison and his wife, Dolly Madison, fled the city, with Dolly famously saving a portrait of George Washington before leaving the White House. However, the war took a dramatic turn shortly after at the Battle of Baltimore in September 1814. American forces stationed at Fort McHenry successfully defended the city against a fierce British attack. The dramatic scenes of bombs bursting in the air inspired Francis Scott Key to write the poem that would later become The Star-Spangled Banner. This unrelenting spirit boosted American morale, showing that the nation could stand firm amidst adversity. The defense of Fort McHenry marked a key psychological turning point in a war fraught with challenges. Though peace negotiations had begun late in 1814, war remained active into early 1815. One of the most famous battles of the War of 1812, the Battle of New Orleans, took place after the Treaty of Ghent was signed. Led by General Andrew Jackson, American forces delivered a resounding victory against the British in January 1815, routing an experienced British army in New Orleans. Despite the war technically being over by this point, news of the treaty had not yet reached the region. Jackson's strategic leadership electrified the nation. The battle reinforced a sense of pride and confidence in the United States. In fact, the overwhelming victory propelled Jackson to national fame, setting the stage for his future presidency. The Treaty of Ghent, formally signed in December 1814, effectively ended the War of 1812. However, it did not provide a definitive victory for either side. The treaty restored pre-war boundaries, meaning no territorial gains were made by either nation. While the treaty failed to address some of the key issues that sparked the war, such as impressment or trade restrictions, it brought an end to active hostilities. With Europe stabilizing after Napoleon's defeat, neither Britain nor the United States had much appetite to continue the costly conflict. Though the treaty lacked groundbreaking agreements, it set the stage for a new era of relations between the United States and Britain. Over time, hostility gave way to cooperation, leading to one of the most durable alliances in modern history. What is the legacy of the War of 1812? Although it's often overshadowed by other conflicts, this war left a lasting mark on North America, shaping the future of the United States and Canada in profound ways. For the United States, the war strengthened national identity and unity. The ability to hold its ground against one of the world's most powerful nations bolstered American pride and forged a stronger sense of independence. Moments like the defense of Fort McHenry and the Battle of New Orleans became part of the nation's cultural mythology. Politically, the war also influenced the trajectory of figures like Andrew Jackson, whose military successes propelled him to the presidency and heralded a new era in American politics. The war also had a devastating impact on Native American tribes. Many tribes had allied with the British, hoping to protect their lands from U.S. expansion. With Britain unable to secure Native American territory after the war, Native resistance weakened and westward American expansion progressed largely unchallenged. In Canada, the war is remembered quite differently. Canadian forces' successful defense against American invasions contributed to a growing sense of Canadian identity, even within the British Empire. This resistance to U.S. aggression became a point of pride, helping shape Canada's future as a distinct nation. The War of 1812 may not always get the attention it deserves, but its significance echoes through history. It was a war that tested the resilience of the United States, strengthened its national unity, and reshaped North American geopolitics. For Canadians, it became a unifying moment in their history, laying the foundation for a unique national identity. While the treaty ended the war without a clear victor, it showed that the United States could hold its own on the global stage, paving the way for its rise as a world power. As history enthusiasts, examining this war reminds us how even seemingly inconclusive conflicts can alter the fate of nations. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the War of 1812. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating historical content. Until next time, keep exploring the past to understand the present.